Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal and you are watching the Mojo story. Muhammad Iqbal, the poet and philosopher who wrote the famous song Saare Jahan Se Achha, Hindustan Hamara, also considered as the ideological force behind the creation of Pakistan and in fact who prompted Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, to be the central force in Muslim conference at that point in time, is back in news. Now, news agency PTI has reported that Delhi University's Academic Council has passed a motion to remove a chapter on Iqbal from the political science syllabus amid dissent. Now, officials have told PTI that the chapter titled Modern Indian Political Thought was a part of the Bachelor of Arts sixth semester paper. Now, that's the development that's taken place about Iqbal, Muhammad Iqbal, who died 10 years before the partition in 1947. Now, to discuss more on this, we're joined by Professor Ruchika Sharma, is from Delhi University professor and historian. Welcome to the show. And we're also joined by Gargi Nandi Roy, who's a commentator. Welcome, Gargi, to the show. Ruchika, if I may start with you, does this mean that the motion is passed now, that the chapter will be dropped from the textbooks, it will be removed?
Uh, I think it is still a recommendation, and the DU is still, the university is still looking at it. We're not sure if it will be dropped or not, but it's quite a recommendation, if I may add, considering Allama Iqbal has been part of the syllabus for quite some time now. This paper is a very old paper, part of the old syllabus, considering the new syllabus for semester six hasn't even come as yet. So one wonders why this change.
But in all likelihood, that when a motion is passed, it eventually ends up in the following the recommendations that have been brought about.
It's quite likely it might be, but as of now, it hasn't really been passed.
Right.
It's quite
Gargi
likely the
Nandi,
recommendation will be accepted.
quite likely. Gargi Nandi Roy, what's the need to remove a chapter on Iqbal? Uh, the man who wrote the song Saare Jahan Se Achha, Hindustan Hamara.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look, sorry,
Uh, you, you want to speak, Ruchika, and you want to say
Ye-
something?
no, no, I
Yeah,
thought of
I wanted to
please
ask
go ahead.
Gargi if you can, Gargi can come in, then we'll come back to
Yes.
you, Ruchika.
See, she's a historian and she's a professor of history. So I think it is not about removing a chapter, but you eulogize certain characters of history and you only show one part. That has been
Yeah.
the problem with the history, which has been very much a left dominated history. So if you keep Iqbal, but give the entire picture, na, I think Iqbal's thought from penning the Saare Jahan Se Achha to his 1930 speech, which became the basis of the two nation theory. I mean, it has seen a remarkable evolution. It had, I think, a somersault kind of thing. If he had written, say, the Saare Jahan Se Achha in 1904, Tarana e Hind, then in 1910, he has also written Tarana e Milli, that is Song of the
Yeah.
Community, same rhyme and meter, right?
Yeah.
चिन्नो अरब जहां से सारे जहां से अच्छा था देन चिन्नो अरब हमारा हिंदुस्तान हमारा मुस्लिम है हम वतन है सारा जहां हमारा that also he has written. Not only that, that's
Yes.
why he is one of the spiritual fathers of Pakistan. And his 1930 speech, what did he say? He also said that Islam tera desh hai, tu mustavir hai. So Islam is your country as you are a Mohammedan. So somewhere, he had placed identity and nationality in religion and not land and culture. So I think that was done to break the Muslims from the mainstream national movement and all. So it is also Iqbal, right? And I think many people think that he himself thought that he was a millenarian messenger to establish Islamic supremacism. And his worldview considered that if you see that Tarana Milli lines, that establishment of political supremacism of Islam, and that's the reason maybe. But I personally, if you ask me, Zafarji, even for Mughals or whatever historical debates we are having, I think Instead of removing, if you give us total pictures, what has been done post independence is the one side. If you see his 1930 Allahabad speech as the president of Muslim League, he had said that there cannot be any peace in the country unless Muslims have got their own nation in the northwest part of the country, that is the northwest part of undivided India. And that was
Right.
the basis. So he's one of the three spiritual fathers of Pakistan, along with
But
Sir Sayyid and
but
Jinnah.
but
He played a key role in Jinnah's rise as the leader of Muslim League. So
yes,
I think
yes.
all
But
this is
Gargi,
so.
Gargi, as you say, shouldn't an entire full picture be presented
Yes,
rather than
I feel
removing a
right.
portion of it? But I come back to Ruchika. Ruchika, Iqbal died almost
Well,
10 years before the partition and the creation of Pakistan. The fact is also that in none of his poetry, none of his verses, he has mentioned specifically the word Pakistan.
That's the case with most people who now are considered as fathers of Pakistan, including Jinnah. The whole idea of the two nation theory, despite the fact that it was floated, did not mean that everybody wanted a separate nation. There is a lot of academic, scholarship on that. Coming back to the whole idea of having Iqbal or not having Iqbal, one of the cornerstones of college education, Zafar, is to have critical thinking, is to ensure that students, whatever they are studying, engage with it critically. So Muhammad Iqbal's, Allama Iqbal's religious chauvinism, as well as his idea of community, as well as him saying "mazhab nahi sikhata, apas mein bair rakhna," all of it makes him the person that he is. All of it is part of his modern political thought. As a
Yeah,
teacher, I would expect my students to read all of it and then critically engage with it and understand for themselves which part of it is something that makes sense and which part of it is something that does not make sense. Yeah? We,
right,
as
right.
teachers, cannot expect the state to decide what is going to go in a college education syllabus and what kind of sanitized idea of modern political thought we are putting. Point number two, if you look at the other people who are part of the modern political thought, for example, Swami Vivekanand, they have pretty controversial views as well. Vivekanand on caste, and I'm quoting verbatim, he says caste is good. That is the only natural way of solving life. I am against leveling down caste inequalities. It is a salutary system. We must obey it. Should we delete Swami Vivekanand from that syllabus as well? Gandhi is another part of the modern political thought. Now, Gandhi's idea on women, as well as his ideas on caste, have been very well critiqued, and they are very, very disturbing ideas. Should we discard Gandhi as well? I would on the contrary, sort of argue that instead of deleting all these modern political thinkers, let's have each one of them, including Iqbal, who speaks about community, who speaks about anti-race theory. If you look at the syllabus that is part of, Muhammad Iqbal's, the idea is of the community, the millet, his idea of khudi, all of these are very
Yes.
important aspects
Two,
that
two, two
students
important
are taking
ideas,
time.
two important ideas that stand out from in his poetry is Khudi and Shaheen. But Gargi, the point that I wanted to ask you is that 75 years have passed since independence. What is the need to now, remove these chapters rather than shouldn't we present a full picture and add more things to each of these thinkers and philosophers so that people make a choice themselves?
I think I agree with this side. The problem is in 75 years, if you see, there has been portions of our history which has been whitewashed and deliberately done so. After the independence, we know Mr. Ramesh Chandra Majumdar was commissioned. Rajendra Prasad and all thought that Ramesh Chandra Majumdar will write the history. He had written 1952 and all, but Mr. Nehru did not like it and all. So there were people of his choice who were given the work, and so we know a bunch of the left historian. They have selectively erased certain portions of history and eulogized and glorified certain portions. That is the problem. I think people are having that problem. So I personally also say, she said his theory of race is there, Muhammad Iqbal. But why don't you also teach students Muhammad Iqbal what he said in his 1930 speech? How he shifted that, as I said in the beginning, that his evolution of thought was almost like he was somersaulting his thoughts. So how as a journey as a political thinker he also changed.
Yes.
Everything should be include everything. Na, show this that same rhyme. People only tell me, ask anybody. Majority of the people will know about Tarana e Hind Saare Jahan Se Achha, but people will not about know about Tarana e Milli, which I quoted in the beginning. कि Chino Arab
Yes.
Hamara, Hindustan Hamara. So give an entire picture. Problem is history cannot be selective, which has been all this while. That is why, and he was talking about 75 years. Zaffar, this day, suddenly after 75 years, we are also seeing the Sengal and how it a Sengal, a Rajdand, was kept in the museum as a walking stick. So this kind of erasing of history, because I think a Congress has been very much anti-Indian culture, anti-Indic culture, anti anything Hindu. See, it is unfortunate that secularism in our country has become synonymous with appeasement of a particular community and denouncing the Indic culture. It is not, it should not be denouncing the Indic culture. What are they? So it was like now we come to know how the Adhinam of the Shaiva Mutt of Tamil Nadu had come. They had first given that Rajdan, it was a relic of the Chola era, to Mountbatten, and then they took it back and then they gave it to Nehru, and there was a ritual done, and there are photographs. The Kanchi Mutt Guru who lived up to 100 years, he said first, and the Adhinams have photographs to say that, but Congress is denying it, and it was kept in that Anand Bhavan museum as a Nehru's walking stick. Why? So this kind of distortion of history has happened. So if this kind of distortion happens, so there will be a time when people will come, and so I don't prefer that. Don't remove. Give an entire picture. Like with Mughals also. Can we delete the Mughals? No. But tell the entire thing also. See, we teach about Mughals, but do we read about the Battle of Sarai Ghat? Isn't that important? Like Lachit Barfukan in 1671 defeated Aurangzeb's forces, and that's why the Mughals could never go to northeast. The Ahoms had ruled the Assam area, the northeast area, for 600 years. Why aren't we taught in our school and college textbooks about the Ahoms and Lachit Barfukan? So, teach about Aurangzeb. Why isn't it taught that he broke so many temples and institutions? So it has been very deliberately done. A deliberate brain work has happened. Even with national history, independence history, only Nehru, Gandhi, and one family has been glorified. There were so many revolutionaries, so many people played a role. I have this book. I'll start reading. Sanjeev had. I want to show. So this also, na, I brought it because I wanted to show this about a national, not only because political thought is also about the revolutionaries, how they. So Sanjeev Sanal, thanks to Sanjeev, he autographed it for me. So this book is also should be taught. Why don't we learn about the contribution of our revolutionaries?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Why is history been selective? So that's why,
What
when you
that?
do it in one way, it happens in the other way. The reaction is happening. I also don't
Yes.
think reaction. You include everything. Tell about Aurangzeb. Tell about what. Tell also that he broke the Kagan Bapi and all. Tell that how the give everything, na. So if you give an
Yeah.
entire picture, then there is no
Right.
problem. That I
Right.
feel.
The point that she's saying, Ruchika, is that it's lopsided, distorted. Present the full picture. There is a tendency to present only just one side of the story. That's the point that Gargi is emphasizing on. So essentially, that's what you are also saying, that you present the whole picture and let the people make their own choice. Let them make an opinion after reading the whole thing. Is that possible?
Firstly, I would really like to tell my co-panelists that if we didn't present the whole picture of Iqbal, she wouldn't know about Iqbal's religious chauvinism. It's because Iqbal's religious chauvinism is out there and is being taught that we know about Iqbal's religious chauvinism. Right? It's not like, people have been born knowing the fact that Iqbal was a religious chauvinist. It's clearly being taught in some classroom. Uh, Same with Aurangzeb. In fact, I would argue that Aurangzeb's temple destruction is taught way more in schools than, for example, the fact that Aurangzeb patronized a lot of temples. The Mahakal temple being one example, where we have a proper inscriptional evidence that Aurangzeb patronized, the Mahant who was responsible for taking care of the Mahakal temple. The Chitrakoot temple, the Balaji temple in Chitrakoot, also has an inscription which talks about the land grant given by Aurangzeb. Now, these are things that nobody knows about Aurangzeb. So, if we are presenting a whole picture, there is a lot that needs to be done then. Then we will have to include, say, like I said, in the same syllabus, the modern political thought syllabus where Iqbal has been deleted, we will have to include Swami Vivekanand's idea of caste inequality. See, when we design syllabus, what we try and do is we try and give the burgeoning thought of, say, a modern political thought syllabus. If we are putting up a thinker, then we will think, okay, these were the main themes of his thought process, right? So when it comes to Iqbal, we have the idea of a community, the idea of a khudi, and of course, Iqbal's syllabus, when it comes to the idea of community, does talk about his religious chauvinism as well. You cannot have a discussion on Iqbal without talking religious chauvinism. But when it comes to Swami Vivekanand, I would say the caste inequality aspect is completely whitewashed. When it comes to Gandhi, very few people talk about his caste views. Very few people talk about his views on women. So we will then have to include all of that as well, which would then make the syllabus literally endless. So what we try and do is we try and rationalize, and we
Yeah,
see, okay, this is the main gist of what this person has been trying to sort of put forth in the
yeah.
20th century, and we put
Eh,
that across in college education.
Yeah, Gargi, you want to come in, but then the point that she's making is very valid. That then we have to make departments for on each of these persons, Iqbal, Gandhi, and Vivekanand. We'll have to. We cannot sum up the whole thing in a chapter. We have to highlight one important thought. It may not be possible to encompass the whole thing.
I think a clear whole picture should be given. She spoke about Vivekanand and caste.
Yeah,
Ruchika ji, I come from the land of Vivekanand. I think what Vivekanand had spoken about caste, because if you originally go about the Varna system, it is believed that everybody is born a Shudra. Everyone is born a Shudra. There is a sloka, I can't recollect at the moment. Everybody born a Shudra, and as per your work, you become a Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahman. So that was the reason for the Varna system, which later became by birth. It was much later, which became by birth. It was supposed to be that everyone is born Shudra. So that's why, as per your qualities, everybody cannot teach, everybody cannot write, so everybody cannot be a Brahman. All will not fight the war. So all cannot be a Kshatriya. And all are required. Vaishya, you need people who are traders and businessmen. So by birth all are Shudra. So that was the original Vedic thing, which later maybe got misused. It became by birth. So that's why Vivekananda had said so. And but as you said, Aurangzeb's breaking temples. No, I studied in West Bengal. In my history book, we read about Tughlaq, that Kutubuddin Aibak, the slave dynasty, Balban, Altamash, Razia Sultan, to entire Mughal period, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Akbar. But I no, there was no mention of. I came to know much later. Breaking of temple. No, it was not taught, Ruchika. But you are saying that no, there has been a clear-cut whitewash which has been done. That's why people are reacting today. You cannot
yes,
say that everything was told. No, it was not. Why do you think a Sanjeev Sannal today is writing about the revolutionaries a separate book? Because they were not given in importance in the NCERT book. That's why, because there was a deliberate thing to show some people as heroes, right? So
right.
that's the reason today he is writing.
Right. Coming
How
coming
many
back to Iqbal,
people know about
coming coming back to Iqbal, a lot of people know Iqbal. They associate him with Saare Jahan Se Achha, and you rightly pointed out Tarana Milli, where he says, "Muslim hai, hum watan hai, सारा जहां हमारा एंड दुनिया के बुतकदों में पहला वो घर खुदा का हम उसके पासबा हैं वो पासबा हमारा." बट ही इज आल्सो रिटन समथिंग दैट आई वांट टू मेंशन हियर, हिंदुस्तानी बच्चों के कौमी गीत. ही सेज, चिश्ती ने जिस जमी में पैगाम हक सुनाया, नानक ने जिस चमन में वहदत का गीत गाया, मेरा वतन वही है, मेरा वतन वही है. टॉकिंग अबाउट हिंदुस्तान. वहदत की लय सुनी थी दुनिया में जिस मकां से, मीरे अरब को आई ठंडी हवा जहां से. मीरे अरब, he talks about the Prophet Muhammad. And then he's also written about Lord Ram. He says, है राम के वजूद पे हिंदुस्तान को नाज, अहले नजर समझते हैं उसको इमाम हिंद. About Lord Ram, he says Imam Hind. About Gautam Buddha, he says, कौम ने पैगाम गौतम की जरा परवाह न की, कदर न पहचानी अपने गौहरे यकदां की. So he's talked about everybody. He's talked about Lord Ram, about Gautam Buddha, about Chishti and Nanak, about Prophet Muhammad getting cool breeze from Hindustan, and Saare Jahan Se Achha. So these things people generally don't know. They only associate Iqbal with Saare Jahan Se Achha and counter it with the Tarana Milli. Yes,
I think the
you are on mute.
critical
Yeah,
analyst, yeah,
yeah,
I'll come. Yeah, Zaffar
yeah.
ji, since Ruchika is a professor, so I think of chapter few quoting all this and to understand a person's mind, that how he was somebody who was secular, rationalist, believed in the concept of Hindustan, and how he changed and how he had that identified with religion and not with land. So how this difference happened in a man's thought process over a period, show that na, there can be a very interesting chapter on that. Students must know, give example of all these lines. I don't think many pages are required, Ruchika, that you cannot give everything. Give all the lines and just tell them na, this is the same person who wrote Tarana Hind in 1904 and wrote Tarana Milli in 1910. And yes, there has been, it is very strange, but his thought process had, there was an evolution which had taken so many somersaults. So you can say that, and you can, put a clear cut bigger picture in front of the students. We are discussing, this will come in few pages. I don't think many pages are required. Like I asked you about Sengal, Ruchika. Tell me, what is your opinion about that? Why 75 years?
No,
When Jaffarji talked about 75 years, tell me why after 75 years, we, the Indians, we never knew about it. That there was a concept of Rajdand. Maybe it was there in Shivaji's time when the Rajguru used to hand over. Last scene.
no, no, Ruchika, you can definitely talk about it. But coming back to the point of Iqbal, Iqbal is a complex personality. We've seen him changing his thought from time to time, evolving, evolving. He had a lot of exposure to the West. He studied in Germany. He was a teacher there. He was a lawyer. He had an association with Jinnah. He wrote a letter to Jinnah, told him, "You are a busy man, if I remember correctly, but it's very important that you come and lead the Muslims of Hindustan." He's a complex person. We cannot just say that he wrote Saare Jahan Se Achha. He had a religious, chauvinistic thought. He wrote Tarana Milli, but it's much more than that.
No, I absolutely agree with you. But before I answer that, just two things, because this has been said and I cannot, as a historian, sit with it. The origin of the caste system is in the Rig Veda. The hymn is called the Purusha Sukta hymn. It says, from the mind of the Brahman, which is the Purusha, the primeval man called Manu,
Yeah.
came the Brahman. From the arms came the Kshatriya, from the thighs came the Vaishya, and from the feet came the Shudra. So this idea is nowhere there in the Vedas that everybody was a Shudra at one point of time. There's no idea. And even when the Aryans come, the term that they use for the people that they meet over here are Dasas and Dasyus, that there is an immediate idea of enslavement. When it comes to Aurangzeb's demonization, that has happened even before the country gained independence. If you talk about Aurangzeb to anybody, and you don't even have to get into formal school education, the first thing that they will tell you is that he's a monster. I mean, I don't have to prove my point. I think everybody knows this already, that Aurangzeb is regarded as the national monster in the country. So I don't think you need to actually open a book for it. That is the popular narrative of Aurangzeb. And that, of course, needs to change. But of course, I don't think NCRT books seem to have, really sort of changed that narrative. Now, coming to the question that you're asking, I think we are presuming over here that this particular syllabus, which had Iqbal, does not talk about his religious chauvinism. Of course, it does. The chapter, which is the portion of the syllabus which is devoted to Iqbal, is called Iqbal Community. Now, when it comes to community, it's his idea of Qaum which is being put forward. It is his idea of millet that is being put forward, and all of which does talk about the community, as say a religious community as well, where he talks about the Muslims. And of course, his religious chauvinism comes across there as well. But you cannot remove, the entirety of the syllabus of Iqbal, because how else then the students will know anything about Iqbal and also develop a critical engagement with Iqbal's texts, both of which have a complexity, which is why college education is supposed to be complex. It's not supposed to be
Yeah.
simplified, black and white, that you understand somebody's thinking as, okay, this person is good and this person is bad. That is not how people are. All people are gray. All modern political thinkers must have, something in their closet, which is very disturbing, because that's the kind of ideas that were, sort of going around at that point of time. So that does
Yeah.
not mean that we
You,
cancel the
you,
entirety just
you
because,
know,
just
before we go to Gargi, I just thought about it that Iqbal wrote Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, a series of lectures that prompted really
yeah,
all of his. He put forward his political thought and Islam, his ideas and conceptions he put across. But Ruchika, I want to understand his ideas about khudi, about self, and Shaheen Falcon. They're very common couplets. Khudi ko kar buland itna कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से कुछ पूछे बता. Everybody know it's
exactly.
written by Iqbal. तू शाही
Right.
है, परवाज है, काम तेरा, तेरे सामने आसमां और भी है. Or those things will also be omitted, or those are certain things which have nothing to do with perhaps religion, politics, but those are just inspirational poetry that motivate a person. Will that also find a mention, or they get removed altogether, or they never had a mention in the first place?
Well, I think all of Iqbal is to be removed from the syllabus. That's the recommendation. We are not keeping, the committee that has given the recommendation is not keeping any amount of Iqbal. The book that you mentioned, Reconstruction of Political Thought, is in fact in the previous syllabus a mandatory reading for students. Just to give you an idea that his religious chauvinism is certainly being talked about. It is a mandatory reading. It's part of the reading list. So it's not like we are leaving out Iqbal. This is college education. This is not supposed to be school education. We do, sort of complexify the whole thing, to use a better word. And we bring in complexities and we ask students to engage in, whatever primary text that they read, whether it be Gandhi's thoughts or whether it be Iqbal's thoughts. To arrive at the conclusion that he's a religious chauvinist, post, say, 1930 or whatever, is something that a student should arrive at on their own. I, as a teacher, or the state cannot sort of put that on the student.
And let me say that Reconstruction is a very difficult book to read and to understand. I tried it once. Gargi, please go ahead.
The myth of Aryan invasion has been broken some years back. Recently, also, there was this excavation at Rakhigari, 9,500 year old civilization. And there are people who believe from the excavations that it was a very democratic society. And mention of the river Saraswati. It is believed in natural science that Saraswati, I think, dried approximately 6,000 BC, so approximately 8,000 years back. So, because there was a Western idea of putting us parallel to the Western civilization, they didn't want us to be seen as a very ancient civilization. So, only just 2,500 year, 2000 BC, they wanted to show the Vedas and all. But Saraswati dried almost 8,000 years back. So, we find the mention of Saraswati in the Vedas. I think the myth of Aryan invasion has been broken by many people. It has been a myth.
Okay.
Okay. So that I think it's which has been propagated the Aryan invasion to show that everybody is an invader. It is not. It is not. Obviously, the first man worked on Africa. He came. So all those things are there. But the myth of Aryan invasion has been broken by many people. They
Right.
have shown quite a bit of evidences to prove. There has been
Last
nine
word.
and a half thousand Rakhigari excavations have been found, Ruchika ji, isn't it?
Last
And
word to you, Ruchika, before we
one
before we.
one thing,
Yeah.
10
Okay.
seconds.
Okay.
Huh, 10 seconds. Ruchika, I also want to mention why I said ki selective thing. See, in my masters, we had Ambedkar's annihilation of caste. You know what is annihilation of caste? It says ki because religion, Hinduism is the root of this caste system, so annihilate the entire religion. That it speaks about. But we were never taught about Pakistan or partition of India, which was also written by Ambedkar in 1945. So he also had an opinion, like if a person who wrote Annihilation of Caste had also criticized the Muslim community for attacking on Hindu processions and all in his Pakistan or partition of India. I, as a student, when I was doing my masters, I did not know that. Believe me, I only read Annihilation of Caste. It was much later that we came to know that about. We were never taught about kings like Lalitaditya in Kashmir. Where were we ever taught? Have we ever been taught about the Battle of Kolachal, the how Marthandavarma defeated the Dutch? So there has been a pattern. We have been shown as people who have always got defeated. So that's why people are reacting. So I personally, again, I'm saying, Zaffarji, I don't believe in removing or deleting. I think give an entire picture, give everything, and so people get the whole picture. I have always believed. I don't believe in removing and deleting. I will say, okay, add. Maybe the syllabus will be harder. It will be more complicated, but let the people do that. Let the people study that. That I personally feel.
Ruchika Sharma, last word to you before we wrap up.
Right. So there are two theories: Aryan invasion theory, which was given by R.M. Wheeler much ago, that has been debunked. But there is the Aryan migration theory, which has been upheld, in fact, by the same excavation that you've mentioned, the Rakhigari excavation. There are two papers, one in Cell and one in Science. You can go and read them. They're both actually available. The PDF versions of it are available for public knowledge, both of which very clearly make this argument that the Aryans came from, this Uralic Central Asian region, the Central Asian steppes as they are called. And, the Vedas will tell you that the word like dasas, etc., was certainly used. Coming back to, why we are not taught, say, for example, Lalita Aditya, etc., Gargi, I think you would also have not been taught the Bijapur Sultanate, for example. You would have not been taught the Malwa Sultanate, for example. You would have not been taught about Malikampar, for example, in whose army Shivaji's father used to work. So you have, we have clearly not been taught about, say, a lot of South Indian sultanates. The Bahmani Sultanate features very little. The Gujarat Sultanate features almost nowhere. So that does not mean that there is a tilt towards only, say, putting Mughals. There is, in fact, what is called in history a North Indian bias, and which is why it's only the Indo-Gangetic plain, and which is why Lalita Aditya of Kashmir gets removed. And so this has got nothing to do with the religious pick and choose. This has just got to do with the fact that, very sadly, we have had a North Indian bias. And we've always had this North Indian bias. And I think I would agree with you that this North Indian bias needs to be removed. I have done my MPhil on Bijapur. I have done my PhD on Mandu, both of which have, absolutely very little research done on them. So I would be more than happy, if these sultanates were also included in the syllabus, right? Just to end, about coming back to Iqbal, the idea, therefore, is, I would think banning any kind of idea or any kind of political thought is just not the way it is. We are a nation where for 40 rupees, Mein Kampf is available at every other bookwala. So if we can allow something like that, which is a seriously disturbing read, I would think, it's a sad comparison to make. But
I don't know. I don't know whether that's a part of whether Mein Kampf is a part of the syllabus. But clearly, that's all the time that we have on the show today. Thanks so much, Professor Ruchika Sharma and Gargi Nandi Roy, for joining us. Thanks to all our viewers for watching. That's all the time we have on the show. Thanks so much.
We started Mojo right here in this basement. Just 4 people, 4. And now we're about to hit our first 1 million subscribers. So this is to say thank you to all of you for your support, for your respect, and for your encouragement. We've always gone to where the story is. During the pandemic, when television's big anchors were hunkered down in their studios or at their homes, we hit the road. We traveled from Delhi to Kerala, covering 30,000 kilometers in our small car, reporting from inside ICUs and inside slum tenements. Whether it's flash floods or war zones, we've always put our boots on the ground. In fact, we're just back from Punjab, tailing the Khalistani fugitive Amritpal Singh. And through all of this, we have always put you, the people, first. In an age of partisan polarized media where most journalists are either chamcha ya morcha, we believe the story is sacred and the truth of the story is what matters. And now as we get ready for the next step, we need your help. Become a Mojo member and get first access to all our big interviews. Get a chance to ask our newsmakers questions. Get a chance to write and report for us for both our website and our channels. And also, interact with me and my colleagues directly through AMA sessions, literally Ask Me Anything. Click on the join now right next to the subscribe button, and yes, also subscribe if you haven't yet, and become a Mojo member for just 159 rupees a month. Hope to see lots of you in our community.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.